All right, today we're going to tackle a part of the IELTS exam that so many people underestimate, speaking part one. We're going to show you how to ditch those basic, boring answers and start telling these little mini stories that will actually wow the examiner and, you guessed it, boost your score. So let's dive in. So, if you're deep in study mode for this exam, you know that every single point counts. Speaking part one can feel like a simple warm-up, right? But it really sets the tone for your entire test. And this right here is where so many people fall into a super common trap. I bet you've seen practice questions just like these online, all about snacks. And on the surface, they look like pretty good practice. But what if I told you that relying on these could actually be holding you back? That they might be stopping you from showing the examiner what you can really do? Yeah, this is what I like to call the IELTS practice trap. So let's break down exactly why practicing with these simple, kind of fake questions that you find all over the internet can actually hurt your score instead of helping it. You know, the root of the problem is right here. These online questions, they're just too simple. They weren't created by actual test writers, so they just don't give you a real chance to flex your language skills and show off your range. So here's the bottom line. These questions just invite short, really basic answers. The topics are so narrow that you end up repeating the same words and ideas, which means your vocabulary and grammar sound limited. And in the end, you're not really giving the examiner any reason to be impressed. And that first impression is so important. Okay, so how do we fix this? Well, we have to move way beyond the simple answer. I'm sure you've been told to always give a reason, but honestly, that advice is only half the story. Just tacking on a because can still sound really rehearsed, and it's just not going to cut it for a top score. Take a look at this. It shows the difference perfectly. The answer on the left, it's fine. It answers the question, gives a reason, but it's pretty flat, right? Now look at the answer on the right. It doesn't just give a reason, it tells a little mini story about the speaker's life. It shows why they choose coffee, and that is so much more powerful. And this right here is the secret. Don't just answer, why do you like it? You need to explain, why do you choose it? And what does it do for you? That little shift in how you think just opens up this whole new world of detail and personal insight. Here's a really powerful way to do this. Connect the simple question to a bigger theme. So when the examiner asks you about snacks, don't just think about potato chips. Think bigger. Think about health, lifestyle, habits, or even your culture. This immediately lifts your answer from a simple fact to a much more interesting discussion. So let's map this out. This is your new thought process. Step 1, you hear the question. Simple enough. Step 2, this is where the magic happens. You connect it to a bigger theme. Step 3, you dig up a personal memory or a habit related to that theme. And finally, step 4, you put it all together into an answer that tells a little story. It's a game changer. Okay, so once you've got the right mindset, you need the right tools, and that means language. So let's talk about building your toolkit with words and phrases that really bring your personal stories to life. Check out this example. That phrase, I grew up eating, it instantly frames the answer in the past. And then adding that little casual bit at the end, and I'm not joking, gives it so much personality. It makes you sound like a real person, not someone reading from a script. Here's another great one. Talking about a bit of a bad habit is so relatable. It shows you're self-aware, and you can use everyday, natural language to talk about yourself. This is exactly the kind of stuff examiners want to hear. Oh, I love this one for talking about how things change. Saying, I go through phases is perfect for discussing your habits. And using an informal term like health nut shows the examiner that you've got a rich, flexible vocabulary. So what's the big takeaway here for vocabulary? Be selective, seriously. Don't just try to memorize giant lists of idioms you're never going to use. Instead, focus on learning phrases that are actually connected to your life and your experiences. That's the language you'll remember and use naturally when the pressure's on. And you know what? This same idea applies to grammar. Forget trying to memorize a bunch of abstract rules. Instead, think about function. Ask yourself, what am I trying to do with my words? Am I talking about a habit? Am I talking about the past? When you link grammar to a purpose, it becomes so much easier to use correctly. All right, let's bring this all home. This isn't just about learning a few new tricks. It's about a complete shift in your mindset. You have to stop thinking of yourself as a test taker and start acting like a real communicator. So this is your new game plan for part 1. Treat it like a real conversation. See every single question as an opportunity to share a little something about yourself. Connect your answers to your life, tell mini stories, and most importantly, use language that feels like you, because that's what real fluency sounds like. So as you get ready for your test, I want you to stop asking yourself, what's the right answer? And instead start asking this: what story will my answers tell about me? Because that right there is the key to unlocking your absolute best performance in IELTS Speaking Part 1.